All right, we looked into the publication rates of abstracts presented at the annual AUA meetings. We know that about 1,500 abstracts are presented every year at the AUA general meeting. The ultimate publication rate, however, we do not know. We know that while abstracts in their review for presentation at the meeting do undergo some degree of scrutiny, they certainly do not undergo the same degree of critical peer review that's required for ultimate publication. We know that the meeting is very widely attended, and as a consequence of this, things presented at the meeting have a potentially huge impact on clinical practice. Our objectives were to determine the ultimate publication rates of presented abstracts, to provide a benchmark for people attending the meeting to consider when whether or not to incorporate the presented findings in their practice, and to identify determinants of publication. We devised a search algorithm with the assistance of a UBC librarian for the Medline database, and we reviewed all of the abstracts presented at the 95th annual meeting, which was held in the year 2000. We chose this year because we know that for abstracts that are presented at scientific meetings and ultimately go on to publication, greater than 90% of those are published within 4 years of their presentation. The criteria for being deemed published was that there was at least one matching conclusion between the presented and the published abstract, and that there was at least one matching author between the two. In total, 1,584 abstracts were presented and searched for from the year 2000 meeting. The overall publication rate found was 55%. In terms of podium abstracts, they had a higher publication rate at 59%. Posters, whether moderated or not, had a publication rate of 55%. And video presentations were significantly less often published with a publication rate of 42%. The average time to publication was 16 months, give or take 13 months. And interestingly, 48 abstracts were published before the meeting even occurred, which represented 3% of the total number of abstracts presented. This is interesting because you're not supposed to present published findings at a scientific meeting. The publication rates by topic are presented here. This is the total numbers of abstracts presented and whether or not they were published. And what I find particularly interesting about this slide is that it demonstrates that we are quite good and we expend a lot of energy in researching some areas in urology at the expense perhaps of other areas.
That's normal.
The publication rates were significantly lower within the realm of female urology, whereas they were significantly greater in the realms of kidney cancer, voiding dysfunction, and Peyronie's disease. We then looked at an impact factor analysis, and for those of you that aren't familiar with impact factors, they're sort of a rough measure of the quality of a journal, and they're derived from the number of times that articles in a journal are cited over the number of times that articles are published in the journal for a given year. And to give you some examples, the New England Journal of Medicine is one of the highest quality journals, and it has an impact factor of 35. One of the best journals according to impact factors in the field of urology is the Journal of Urology with an impact factor of 3.3. And there's several other journals listed there. The average impact factor of journals in which articles from the AUA meeting were published was 3.2. Strangely, unmoderated posters were more often published in higher quality journals than either the podium or the moderated posters. And not surprisingly, the video presentations were published in lower quality journals. To look at impact factors according to subject, again, prostate cancer was published in higher quality journals, whereas upper tract surgery, BPH, and laparoscopy abstracts were published in lower quality journals. There are a couple areas that we are still planning on looking into in our study. First of all, in order to hopefully catch some of the abstracts which may not have been listed in the Medline database, we plan on searching the MBase. And secondly, we plan on doing a positive versus negative outcome assessment with the hypothesis that abstracts that had a negative outcome will have a lower publication rate than those with a positive outcome. In conclusion, our overall abstract publication rate that we found was 55%. And this is similar to the publication rates at other major medical meetings. I think the take-home message here, though, is that 45% of all the abstracts presented at the AUA annual meeting either never undergo, in that they're never submitted, or never withstand the scrutiny of critical peer review that's required for publication. And of course, the second and perhaps most important conclusion is that nothing on earth is more important than prostate cancer.